be watched after midnight. Hello everyone, I am Mr. Prost. Welcome to my channel and let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Without further ado, today's case takes us to the state of Washington in the northeastern United States, just south of Seattle, near Tacoma. Here lies the city of Lakewood, known for its scenic views and family-friendly neighborhoods. With its population of about 63,600, the peaceful suburban atmosphere is a major draw. Once a vacation retreat for Seattle's elite, Lakewood now has a more modest and year-round population. The city is home to a very diverse community, with nearly half of the residents not speaking English as their first language. The international neighborhood features people of Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Latino heritage, along with the diverse restaurants that come with it. My channel is slowly turning into a tourist guide, from food to exploration. But Lakewood is also home to two significant military bases, Joint Base Lewis McChord and Camp Murray. These installations, established in the early 20th century, still play an essential role in the region. They serve as the headquarters for the Washington Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and the state's military department. As a result, the city provides housing for military personnel and their families. Skylar Nemeth is a young serviceman. He and his wife have been married for a year and a half. They live in Lakewood, near Joint Base Lewis McChord, where Skylar works. On October 16, 2014, Skylar is reunited with his wife, Danielle, after 3 weeks apart. During those 3 weeks, Skylar had been away for military training. Danielle Tara Gideon was born on January 11, 1995. She arrived 7 weeks prematurely, and doctors doubted that she would survive. However, little Danielle fought like a champion and quickly recovered from her early birth. She grew up with her brother and 2 sisters. Unfortunately, when Danielle was just 2 years old, her mother, Elizabeth Ripeon, passed away from cancer. After her mother's death, it was her maternal grandmother, Scarlett, who took care of the children. They lived together modestly in the town of McKinley, California. When Scarlett passed away, the children's stepfather, Michael Bolton, adopted Danielle and her siblings. Danielle was 14 years old at the time, and Michael raised them as his own. She attended school in McKinley and excelled academically. She also joined the cheerleading team, performing impressive acrobatics in the air. Petite and agile, her role in the team suited her perfectly. Danielle was not only a strikingly beautiful young woman, but she was also kind, gentle, and friendly. However, she carried a melancholic side. When she met her best friend, Michaela Jingling, the two young women quickly formed a special bond. They both lost their mothers at about the same age. Danielle was well liked by her classmates and the cheerleading coach. She was a typical high school student who loved her friends, family, makeup, and sports. But deep down, she felt lonely. She sought comfort, love, and a sense of belonging, often looking for it in the eyes of boys her age. Danielle needed to feel loved, to be surrounded by people, and to have the attention of her boyfriends. She quickly grew attached to their families as well. For Danielle, every relationship was taken as if it were with the love of her life. She longed for stability, and she would eventually find that stability in Skylar's arms. Danielle was 17 when she met Skylar. Sources differ on the exact details of their first encounter. Some say it was during a football game, while others claim they connected through Facebook. But one thing is certain, it was love at first sight. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Skylar had just graduated from another high school and had enlisted in the military. He was set to begin training in Georgia within a few months. After only a few weeks, Danielle told her friends she planned to marry Skylar. Skylar, equally in love, felt the same way. His mother, Annette Heller, witnessed their budding relationship. After just 1 month, Skylar asked his mother if Danielle could move in with them. Annette, who already saw Danielle as a daughter, agreed. Danielle and Annette got along well, even when Skylar was absent for training. During the Christmas holidays, Skylar returned from Georgia and took Danielle to the top of Kneeland Mountain. There, on what felt like the roof of the world, he got down on one knee, presented her with a ring, and proposed. Kneeland may be a cute name, but in English, it means Kneeland, making it a fitting place for the proposal. Danielle was overjoyed. She accepted his proposal. Her dream of marrying the man she loved was coming true. and they were ready to start a family. Just 5 months after meeting, Danielle and Skylar were married on March 7th, 2013, the same day as Skylar's military graduation in Georgia. The young couple wasted no time beginning their new life together. Danielle dropped out of high school, and they adopted 2 dogs. Together, they moved into military housing in Lakewood, right next to the base where Skylar was stationed. Danielle was happy. She furnished and decorated their home to create a warm and inviting space for herself and her husband. The couple shared many common interests, including dogs, outdoor walks, nature, football, sports, and firearms. Together, they frequently go to the shooting range for practice. Danielle cherishes these moments with her husband. In fact, she enjoys everything they do together when he's not on duty. A collector and handyman, Skylar decides to build and gift Danielle a custom AR-15 for her 19th birthday, in her favorite color, blue. Skylar is passionate about firearms. He grew up around guns. They were always present in his home. He has been shooting rifles since he was a child and owns a collection of more than a dozen firearms, which he keeps securely locked in a safe in their apartment. Encouraged by Skylar, Danielle re-enrolls in a local school and eventually earns her high school diploma. She then finds a job at a company that manufactures granite countertops. She enjoys her work and her colleagues, and it keeps her occupied while Skylar is away on missions. However, Danielle dreams of saving enough money to one day open her own nail salon. In the meantime, she experiments with makeup techniques and posts makeup tutorials on YouTube. Her primary focus, however, is caring for her husband. She strives to be the perfect wife, the future perfect mother. On the surface, Danielle and Skylar appear to be living a peaceful, stable, and traditional life. But as we dig deeper into their seemingly ideal marriage, troubling signs begin to emerge. Friends of Danielle report that she seems increasingly anxious. She confides in them about feeling stressed, constantly trying to keep the house spotless and prepare meals for Skylar when he returns from work. Her friends also notice bruises starting to appear on Danielle's arms, bruises shaped like fingers, as if caused by a hand gripping her too tightly. Danielle tries to hide them with long sleeves, but when her friends catch a glimpse and ask, "What's that on your arm?" she brushes it off, saying she's just clumsy, that she bumped into the bathroom cabinet or accidentally closed the fridge door on her arm. Neighbors also start to notice loud, violent arguments coming from the couple's home. These disputes almost always revolve around the same topic, Skylar's jealousy. He constantly accuses Danielle of cheating on him, despite her being deeply in love, isolated, and doing everything she can to be the perfect wife he desires. The signs of Skylar's violence and control over Danielle grow more apparent. He comes home from work, drinks heavily, and once intoxicated, flies into fits of rage, berating Danielle over trivial matters or nothing at all. On September 27, 2014, Skylar and his fellow infantrymen are sent on a 3-week training mission in the eastern part of the state. During that time, Danielle is left alone at home. Though somewhat isolated, she finds ways to keep herself busy. She works, maintains the house, walks her beloved dogs, and spends time with her friends and colleagues. Her routine is typical for a young woman balancing her home, friends, pets, and job. On October 16, 2014, after 19 days apart, Danielle waits for Skylar outside the military base, ready to take him home to their apartment. To celebrate their reunion, they plan to order pizza for dinner. Once they arrive home, Danielle proudly shows Skylar how well she has prepared for his return. The apartment is spotless, she has bought candles to decorate, and even the dogs have been freshly groomed, all to make her husband happy. At 4 p.m., Danielle FaceTimes her best friend, Michaela, while seated at her desk in the guest bedroom facing her computer. Skylar enters the room and sits on the couch facing the desk. Danielle shows him her phone, signaling that she's online. Skylar smiles and waves. The two friends finish their conversation around 5 p.m, with Danielle saying, "Love you, talk soon, kisses." At around 5:30 p.m. that same day, the first 911 call comes in, followed by a second one. They are from Danielle and Skylar's neighbors. They had heard a gunshot. One concerned neighbor knocks on the couple's door to check what happened. Skylar answers, appearing panicked. He tells the neighbor that Danielle accidentally shot herself while cleaning her rifle and forbids them from entering the apartment. The police arrive a few minutes later. Danielle is slumped over her desk, having been shot in the head. But it quickly becomes clear that Skylar's version of events doesn't hold up. There's no doubt it was Skylar who pulled the trigger. She was shot in the back of the head. But was it an accident or intentional? Skylar is placed under arrest at 6:07 p.m. He's filmed in the car, appearing to be in shock as they drive him to the Lakewood police station. He mutters, "How much is everything? I want to see you, my wife. I love." Once in custody, Skylar is interrogated for over 5 hours. He retracts his initial statement. Danielle did not shoot herself in the head. It was him. Skylar had the AR-15 in his hands, and he explains to investigators how the day unfolded. Earlier, he had sent Danielle a text, asking her to buy 2 bottles of whiskey for him, a Sailor Jerry and a Fireball. An important detail, Skylar is under 21, so he can't buy alcohol himself. This will come up again later. Skylar continues his story. "I took a shot of Sailor Jerry and drank a glass of Fireball with Red Bull. I don't think I was completely drunk, but I'd say I was a little tipsy, mostly tired, but also in a good mood." After having his drink to unwind, Skylar decides to put the gun away in the safe. A great idea to handle a firearm after drinking, but in any case, this was the weapon Skylar had given Danielle for self-defense while he was away. It was stored in their bedroom closet, easily accessible if needed. However, a basic rule is that firearms should be unloaded and locked in the safe when not in use. Skylar learned this rule from his parents. He picks up the gun and sits on the couch to prepare it for storage. Danielle is at her desk, working on the computer, her back turned to Skylar. Skylar explains that he removed the magazine containing all the bullets. The gun should have been unloaded, but unfortunately, 1 bullet remained in the chamber. "I'm not sure if it's called the chamber, but you know what I mean." A shot was fired accidentally. The bullet traveled across the room, through Danielle's head, and lodged itself in the computer. Danielle died instantly. But the more Skylar talks, the more suspicious he seems to investigators. His story changes, especially regarding how he was holding the gun when it went off. The investigators ask him to explain the details, how such an accident could happen, how someone as experienced with firearms as Skylar could make such a rookie mistake. Why didn't Skylar call 911? It was the neighbors who called. Why wasn't there any of Danielle's blood on Skylar, suggesting he didn't try to help her? Why did he pour the whiskey bottles down the toilet and throw them off the balcony? Why did he put the AR-15 back in the closet and shove the bullets under the bed? Too many things didn't add up. By the end of the interrogation, Skylar had failed to convince the investigators. He was taken to Pierce County Jail, with bail set at $1 million. His mother, Annette, would do everything in her power to raise the money to get her son out of jail while awaiting trial. Skylar was placed under house arrest with judicial monitoring. Meanwhile, the investigation continued. Detectives scrutinized the couple's lives and relationship. They were confident they had their culprit, but they needed a motive. Without a motive, it would be considered involuntary manslaughter. However, the investigators were convinced the shooting was deliberate. Danielle's friends were questioned, and they shared stories of Skylar's controlling behavior. For example, he had forbidden his wife from attending Michaela's baby shower. He didn't want Danielle to get a job, preferring that she stay home, waiting for him. Michaela also explained that whenever Skylar dropped Danielle off at her place, he would leave and do something else while the two friends spent time together. He never tried to get to know his wife's best friend, even going so far as to completely ignore her. Another friend of Danielle's had witnessed similar behavior. Skylar accused Danielle of cheating on him with every man she interacted with, friends, colleagues, even neighbors. He had flown into a rage a few weeks before the incident when he found out Danielle had spent an afternoon with Jeremy, a high school friend. Michaela also mentioned that Skylar once smashed Danielle's phone in a fit of anger, though the details of this incident remain unclear. Despite all this, Danielle protected Skylar, refusing to speak ill of him, even to her closest friends. Michaela thinks her friend isn't telling her everything. And by the way, speaking of secrets and personal thoughts, Daniel keeps a diary. Investigators learn about it from his relatives, but they can't find it. It isn't found in the couple's apartment. Where is it? The investigators call Danny, who apparently retrieved the diary after the incident. She is in possession of it since she paid the $1 million bail for her son. I think we can assume that hiding Daniel's diary is also to protect her son. But no problem, says Danielle, the mother devoted to her son, who could turn out to be a killer. She can hand over the diary to the investigators if they want, but she prefers to warn them. A few pages are missing. They've been torn out. Who knows by whom and why? The investigators? Unfortunately, they don't learn anything interesting for the case from this hole-filled diary. Another strange element comes to light. A receipt for a bouquet of red roses purchased the day before is found in the couple's apartment. Skylar explains that Daniel made this purchase for the wife of one of his colleagues, but the investigators wonder if it wasn't a gift for a lover. Upon finding the receipt, Skylar might have seen red, and in a fit of jealousy, killed Daniel. At least that's one theory. Skylar's trial, at 21 years old, begins in February 2016, a year and a half after his wife Daniel's death. Daniel was 19 at the time of her death. Skylar is accused of voluntary manslaughter. Throughout the entire process, Dana will put her life on hold to support her son. She leaves California, where she lives, and leaves her youngest son, Aaron, with friends in Utah to move to Tacoma with Skylar. He stays at friends' houses, and they even share the same bedroom. She spends all her savings and even borrows money to assemble a proper defense team. Prosecutor Gregory Greer opens his case by stating that this is a case of control. He then reads out text messages from Skylar to Daniel to demonstrate the climate within the couple. Daniel: what the hell is this? Why did you get Amazon Prime? You could ask me before doing stupid things with my money. You're really an idiot. In another message, Skylar accuses Daniel of cheating on him with Jeremy Henry, a high school friend. Daniel responds, either you have issues you need to work on, or you don't trust me, but this has to stop. The prosecutor continues, Skylar's actions speak louder than his words, storing the gun in the closet, hiding the ammunition under the bed, pouring out the alcohol into the toilet and throwing the empty bottles over the balcony. All of this, according to the prosecution, is evidence tampering. Skylar is trying to get rid of anything that could give a motive for this act. Speaking of the bottles, I told you we would come back to them. The prosecutor describes them as the most significant piece of evidence in the case, and here's why. Originally, Skylar asked his friend and fellow soldier, Anthony Faces, to pick up the bottles because he had permission to leave the training camp a day earlier than him. But Anthony had other things to do, so he didn't want to run errands for Skylar. Skylar then sent a text to Daniel, but she wasn't 21 yet either. She panicked a bit and was afraid of being scolded if the bottles weren't at home when Skylar returned, as requested. So she asked two of her friends to go with her, and among those friends was Jeremy. When Skylar returned from his mission, he thanked his friend Anthony, who told him, "Dude, I didn't do anything, but you know who went to get your booze with your girl." Apparently, according to Anthony, Skylar flew into a rage. He was angry because Daniel had lied by omission. She saw Jeremy when he didn't want them to see each other. Skylar was angry because he was jealous and couldn't control his emotions. He pretended to be in a good mood during a FaceTime call between Daniel and Michaela, but the prosecutor says he was hiding his anger. He is on the lookout, like a well-trained soldier. He waits for her to hang up. An argument begins, and he shoots her in the back of the head. The ultimate evidence, according to the prosecution, is Daniel's autopsy. It indicates that she was shot from a very close distance, almost point blank, and the prosecutor has a dramatic moment during the trial. While questioning Skylar, he places the murder weapon in the young man's hands. He wants to imprint this image of Skylar, the killer, in the minds of the jurors. On the other hand, the defense pleads negligence. The gunshot was not intentional, and there is no evidence to suggest any motive. You'd think they hadn't heard the prosecutor's side, seen the texts, or heard the testimonies from friends speaking of excessive jealousy and obsessive control. But anyway, the defense continues. Skylar made the stupid and reckless decision to point a gun he believed was unloaded, never imagining a bullet could come out and end Daniel's life. Michael Stewart, the defense attorney with over 20 years of experience, wants to present Skylar as a loving husband. He too reads carefully selected text messages. "I'm going to bed, sweetheart. I love you." Or, "Hey baby, how was your day?" Skylar and Dana also speak to describe how much the couple loved each other, talking about the future they imagined together, the happiness of living under the same roof, of being married to one's soulmate. And Skylar cries, "I never wanted to hurt my wife. Never, Danette." His mother protests. According to her, this is a biased trial. They found him guilty within hours of his arrest. Without even investigating, she says. Attorney Michael Stewart knows the real challenge will be convincing the 12 jurors that a qualified soldier with years of firearm training could make such a mistake, especially a fatal one. He describes Skylar as a tired child, worn out from training camp, and concludes, "There was never any motive. It was an accident." He asks the jury to find his client guilty of manslaughter, not first-degree murder, which implies premeditation. The jury will need 7 long days of deliberation. The goal is not to decide, as it usually is, whether Skylar shot his wife. He did shoot Daniel, he admits it. The jury's task is to decide what was going on in Skylar's mind at the moment he pulled the trigger. Even though they are perplexed by Skylar's behavior after the shooting, no 911 call, not helping Daniel, getting rid of the alcohol, and hiding the loaded magazine, the jurors will recreate the scene with the same weapon to determine if it's possible for a shot to go off accidentally. And the jury reaches a verdict. Skylar is found guilty of manslaughter. Recreating the scene with a ballistics expert allows them to conclude that it is possible for the shot to go off accidentally. Personally, I find that doesn't explain how the bullet could have landed right in the middle of Daniel's head. But unfortunately for me, I wasn't on the jury. And I'm also shocked that there weren't any charges brought against Danette, Skylar's mother, for obstruction of justice. Sure, we probably can't prove that she was the one who tore out the pages, likely incriminating her son, but the mere fact that she was in possession of the diary could have justified charges, and more importantly, could have weighed in to make justice for Daniel. Skylar himself will say that his mother did too much for him. She sold everything, even her jewelry. She sacrificed a lot to help him get out of this situation. 3 weeks later, Skylar is summoned again for his sentencing hearing before his family and friends, but also Daniel's family and friends. Skylar speaks. "My actions, and my actions alone, brought us here, and I take full responsibility for them. I was reckless and negligent, and for that I will pay. I'm sorry to everyone here, and most of all, I'm sorry for Daniel. I'm sorry that she was taken from this world, and I'm sorry for her friends and family." On March 3, 2026, Judge Jack Nevin, a retired military judge, sentences Skylar to 13.5 years in prison. "You are an expert, and the level of expertise you possess shows the degree of recklessness you exhibited. Skylar could be released as early as 2028. He will be 34 years old. To conclude, let's say that this case is complex because we are not looking for who killed, but why. We know who killed. Was there murderous intent, or was it truly an accident? The jury decided it was an accident, and given the circumstances, I completely disagree. But that's just my opinion, and I invite you to leave yours in the comments. For me, one question remains unanswered. Can a well-trained soldier, a firearms expert, accidentally kill the person they love most? Drunk and accidentally firing? I can accept that. Drunk and shooting right in the middle of the head? I find that hard to believe. I also feel that the autopsy report, which stated that the bullet was fired almost point blank, was completely overlooked. The only thing I might concede is Skylar's response when asked why he acted the way he did after the shot. No 911 call, pouring the alcohol down the toilet, throwing the bottles off the balcony, etc. He replies that he wasn't thinking clearly. He was in shock. Let's not forget he had been drinking. That, I might believe. Skylar was convicted for his recklessness and negligence, almost without taking into account all the couple's problems, his jealousy, his possessiveness, the control he exerted over Daniel. A year apart, another soldier from the same infantry battalion, Lewis McCord, named Jeremiah, also faced legal trouble for murder, but his story ended very differently. Jeremiah was prosecuted in a military court for stabbing another soldier in the heart on a street in Lakewood, the same town where Skylar and Daniel lived. The soldier came from a poor family in Chicago and had a defense attorney provided by the Army. He pleaded self-defense and was sentenced to 45 years in prison. The difference between these two sentences is shocking. And why was Jeremiah prosecuted in military court and not in Pierce County Court like Skylar? Apparently, it's the army and the county that informally discuss which authority will prosecute a soldier when a crime is committed off base. Basically, it's totally arbitrary. Isn't it based on who you know? And you've surely noticed that Jeremiah, well, he isn't white, so we have to ask the following question. What would Skylar's sentence have been if he had been tried in military court? And more importantly, would he have received the same verdict and sentence if, like Jeremiah, he had been black? We finish with one last question. I know there are a lot of questions about this case. In any case, personally, I have quite a few. If someone in your circle might be responsible for an intentional murder, do you let the investigation proceed without intervening, or at most, by paying $1 million bail? Okay, why not? But do you let justice take its course, or do you pull a Danette and tear out pages from the victim's diary? Pages that, I imagine, only contained incriminating evidence against Skylar. Who else could have torn out those pages? And if Danielle wasn't telling much, if anything, to her friends, not even her best friend Michaela, it's easy to conceive that she wrote it down somewhere. At the very least, you can't keep everything bottled up inside, or you'll explode, especially if, like Danielle, you endure injustice after injustice. A husband who drinks, who's never satisfied with all the efforts and sacrifices you make for him, and who constantly accuses you of cheating every other day. Leave your comment below. That's all from me. Thanks for watching this video until the end. See you next week for another case. Bye.